We need that trust money for the wedding. Stop being selfish. Mom's voice cut through the phone like a blade, sharp and demanding. I sat in my empty house in Phoenix, Arizona, still wearing the same black dress from yesterday, still feeling the weight of the dirt on my hands from filling in my son's grave myself. I said quietly, I understand. My name is Clara, and I'm 35 years old. 2 days ago, I buried my 9-year-old son completely alone while my parents and sister celebrated her engagement party across town. They knew about the funeral. They chose the party instead. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched long enough that I wondered if Mom had hung up. Then she cleared her throat. Good. Patricia needs $12,000 for the catering deposit, and we figured Henry's trust fund can cover it. You're the executor, so just write the check. Henry, my beautiful, brilliant boy who loved dinosaurs and could recite every fact about velociraptors, who fought leukemia for 3 years with more courage than most adults show in a lifetime, who died holding my hand while asking if Grandma and Grandpa were coming to visit. The lawyer will need a few days to process everything, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. A few days. Clara, the venue needs payment by Friday or Patricia loses her spot. Can't you just transfer the money from your account and get reimbursed later? I closed my eyes, remembering how I'd begged them to postpone Patricia's engagement party. Just one day. Just to be there when their grandson was laid to rest. Mom had clicked her tongue and said, Honey, Henry wouldn't want us to be sad. He'd want us to celebrate family happiness. Family happiness. While I shoveled dirt onto my child's coffin with my bare hands because the funeral home workers had already left. I'll take care of it, I told her. Perfect. And Clara, try to focus on the positive. Patricia's wedding will be a fresh start for all of us. We need to put this difficult time behind us and move forward. The call ended. I set the phone down and walked to Henry's bedroom, where his dinosaur posters still covered the walls and his favorite stuffed triceratops sat on the unmade bed. We'd been living in this house for the past year, ever since I'd moved back to Phoenix to be closer to family during Henry's treatment. What a mistake that had been. My parents lived 20 minutes away in Scottsdale, in the big house Dad bought after his accounting firm took off. Patricia, my younger sister by 3 years, lived in their pool house while planning her dream wedding to a real estate developer named Brad. When Henry was first diagnosed, they'd seemed supportive. They visited the hospital a few times, brought flowers, said all the right words about being there for us. But as months turned to years and Henry's condition worsened, their visits became less frequent. They were busy people after all. Dad had clients to manage. Mom had her garden club and book society. Patricia had wedding venues to tour and dresses to try on. The breaking point came 6 months ago, when Henry was back in the hospital for another round of chemotherapy. He'd been asking for Grandpa to come read him dinosaur books like he used to. I called Dad's office 3 times that day. His secretary kept saying he was in meetings. That evening, I saw Patricia's Instagram story. A family dinner at their favorite steakhouse. Mom, Dad, Patricia, and Brad, all smiling over expensive wine and perfectly plated food. The timestamp showed it was posted while Henry was throwing up from his treatment, asking why his grandparents didn't love him anymore. I should have known then what I know now. When it came to choosing between convenience and commitment, they would always take the easy path. Henry's trust fund had been established by my ex-husband's family after his death in a car accident 4 years ago. $50,000 meant to secure Henry's future. College, maybe a house someday, whatever he might need. When Henry was diagnosed, I'd been grateful for that safety net, even though I never touched a penny of it. My job as a nurse at Phoenix Children's Hospital provided enough for us to get by, and I wanted that money to remain Henry's. Now Henry was gone, and legally, as his mother and the executor of his estate, the money belonged to me. But they didn't know what I'd already done with it. 3 weeks ago, when Henry's doctors told me his time was running short, I'd made a decision. I called the lawyer who managed the trust and asked about charitable giving. Could the money be donated in Henry's name? Of course, he'd said. Just need your signature as executor. I'd spent hours researching children's cancer organizations, reading about their programs and impact. I wanted Henry's legacy to help other kids fighting the same battle he'd fought so bravely. The paperwork was completed 2 weeks ago. Every penny of that $50,000 was already donated to the Children's Cancer Research Alliance, with a memorial fund established in Henry's name. The irony was beautiful. While my family planned their party, instead of supporting their grandson in his final days, I was ensuring Henry's memory would live on in a way that actually mattered. I walked to my kitchen and poured a cup of coffee, thinking about tomorrow's family dinner. Mom had called it a healing gathering where we could process our grief together and discuss Patricia's wedding plans. She'd insisted I come, despite my protest that I wasn't ready to be around people yet. But I would go. I would sit at their table, listen to their wedding talk, and wait for the perfect moment to share what I'd already done with Henry's trust fund. The look on their faces would be worth every moment of pain they'd caused. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Mom says you're being super generous with Henry's money. You're the best sister ever." I smiled for the first time since the funeral. The next evening, I drove to my parents' house in Scottsdale, passing the cemetery where Henry rested under a small headstone I'd chosen myself. No one had offered to help with those arrangements either. They were too busy sampling wedding cakes. The house looked exactly the same as always. Perfectly manicured lawn, expensive cars in the driveway, warm light spilling from the windows, a picture of suburban success that hid so much ugliness underneath. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering strength. Inside that house were the people who should have loved Henry unconditionally, who should have dropped everything to be with him in his final weeks. Instead, they treated his illness like an inconvenience, his death like an interruption to their important plans. Dad opened the door before I could knock, wrapping me in what felt like a performance of a hug. "Clara, sweetheart, we're so glad you could make it. Your mother's made your favorite pot roast." My favorite pot roast. As if food could make up for abandoning their grandson. The dining room was set with Mom's best china, the kind she only used for special occasions. Apparently, discussing how to spend my dead son's money qualified as special. Patricia and Brad were already seated, Patricia practically glowing with excitement, Brad checking his phone with the kind of boredom that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. "There she is." Patricia jumped up to hug me. "I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral. The appointment with the florist was scheduled months ago, and you know how hard it is to get time with the good vendors." The appointment with the florist. While I was lowering my son's body into the ground, my sister was choosing centerpieces. Mom emerged from the kitchen carrying a platter of perfectly sliced roast, her face bright with the kind of forced cheer she'd perfected over the years. "I thought we could have a nice family dinner and talk about moving forward. We've all been through so much these past few years. We'd all been through so much." As if she'd been the one sleeping in hospital chairs and holding her child's hand through endless treatments. I took my seat at the table, the same chair I'd occupied during family dinners throughout my childhood. Henry used to sit next to me when we visited, asking endless questions about everything and making everyone laugh with his dinosaur impressions. The empty space beside me felt huge. "So," Dad said, cutting into his roast, "your mother mentioned you're willing to help with wedding expenses. That's very generous, especially considering everything you've been dealing with. Henry would want us to celebrate happiness," Mom added quickly. "He was such a joyful little boy. He'd want his money to go towards something beautiful." I almost choked on my water. Henry would want his money to help other sick children, not fund a party for people who couldn't be bothered to attend his funeral. Patricia leaned forward eagerly. "I've been thinking about the most meaningful way to honor Henry at the wedding. Maybe a small memorial table with his photo. Something tasteful that doesn't bring down the mood too much." A memorial table. A photo. After abandoning him completely, she wanted to use his memory as wedding decoration. "That sounds lovely," I said carefully. Brad looked up from his phone for the first time. "How much are we talking about anyway?" The trust fund amount. There it was. The real reason for this dinner. Not grief, not healing, not family unity, money. $50,000, Dad said proudly, as if he'd contributed to it somehow. Henry's father's family set it up after the accident. Smart investment. The boy won't need it now, so it might as well go towards something that brings the family joy. The boy won't need it now. Henry had a name. He was their grandson, but to them, he'd become nothing more than a source of funding for Patricia's perfect day.